invasion by Putin into those NATO countries.
All right, Shannon Pennypiece at the White House, Richard Engel in Kyiv, thank you both. And I'm joined now by West Virginia's Republican Senator Shelley Moore Capito. She was a member of the congressional delegation that traveled to Germany and to Poland over this past weekend. Senator Capito, thanks for being with us now that you're back. I'm just curious at the start here, what struck you most about what you saw and what you heard while you were in the region?
Well, a couple of things, Garrett. Thanks for having me on. First of all, this is an unjust and an immoral war where Putin is bombing and killing children and families. Second, the Ukrainian people are united and they're fighters, and they're going to fight to the end. Third, and not necessarily in this order, but NATO is strong, and NATO is together and probably in a much more powerful position to have a united position than probably since World War II. And then also that the United States is doing so much, but Poland is incredible as a partner, as a military, and also as a humanitarian partner. We went to refugee centers, saw those families. It's heartbreaking.
Talk to me more about this refugee crisis. The reporting has been so excellent, but I feel like we're still only seeing the tip of the iceberg about how bad the situation might get there. What did you see at these refugee centers, and are we in the West, in the U.S., prepared for what might be a very long-term effort to support these people?
Well, what we're seeing is on the Polish border, which is where we were at that refugee center, we saw probably 1,500 families, mostly women and children, elderly as well. We saw NGOs and others feeding as much as 6,000 meals per day. And then they are sort of processing into this and then moving into either Poland, Germany, or the woman that I spoke with was going to the UK with her 6- and 8-year-old. She left her husband, her home, her parents behind, 2 miles from the Russian border. It's so compelling. She kept saying, please help us, please do more. And I think the human crisis of millions of people leaving that country has only begun to sink in.
Do you think there will be more for the U.S. Senate to do, for the administration to do? You guys passed $14 billion nearly in aid just a week or two ago now. The president's started to spend some of that money, $800 million, I think, for Ukraine's military. How much more can Congress, should the administration do to help on both those fronts, the humanitarian and the military front?
I think there's no question we can and will do more. They gave us a list, one of the groups we met with, a list of more Javelin, Stingers, helicopters, air support, and aircraft. These are the things that our $14 billion is going to go towards on the military and lethal side. But, we need to keep doing this, and I think that we don't want to give them just enough to stay in the fight. We have to win this. They have to win this, and they're going to fight to the end. And so I think that on the humanitarian side, our NGOs are moving fast. Time is another issue. When we think of, in 2 weeks we're going to do this, well, we're 23 days into this, so every day is crucial.
Can enough be done for Ukraine to win this only with the U.S. sending money and materiel? The discussion about a no-fly zone continues to come up. It continues to be knocked down. Do you think we might ultimately be headed that direction? And would you support such a thing, maybe as a red line for some future act in that country?
At this point, it is not just the United States, and we need to remember that. These are the NATO nations. This is their not backyard, their front yard. And they know that if Putin is successful, who's next? Is it the Baltic states? Is it Moldova? This is a question that was recurring. So what stops him? And then would he use nuclear weapons, which is a very critical question here. I don't see us going to a no-fly zone. I think that if we equip the Ukrainians with what they need as NATO and as a coalition, ramp up even more sanctions on the oligarchs, I think that we can put more pressure on Putin than he's felt right now.
What was your conversation like in Poland and in Germany about the possibility that this might spill over and become a NATO-involved conflict, either by intentional Russian aggression or by miscalculation down the line?
Well, I would say that obviously everybody's on heightened alert about that. And as I said, this is their front yard. Certainly Poland would be, I can think, considered at the tip of the spear with the involvement they're doing with moving humanitarian goods, with moving people in and out, with staging NATO troops along, that include American troops in and around. We've always had a training presence there, and we maintain that. So I think it's more of a readiness question, quite frankly. We've got to be ready. Hopefully we won't have to use